Good morning, everyone. It's cindybirkland.com, and how exciting our election is heating up. We've got an amazing election coming up in November. Super important this rip around. We say that every time, but it's getting more and more scary out there. But today I have a fantastic guest. I have Drew Johonson, and he is running for the Clark County Commissioner for District F. Okay. And this is really important seat. And so, not a lot of people understand what you're running for. And so I think it's just really important that we have you on the show today and talk about what your role is for that and why it's so important right now. So could you kind of explain that, Drew, like what your background is? I know I've got a lot to throw at you today, but why you're good for the role, what's it about, what's next for Nevada with this?
Sure. So the Clark County Commission is the most important position for people who live here in Clark County. So if you live in Las Vegas, if you live in the Valley, this is the position that impacts your life the most. And the reason for that is because it controls property tax, it controls sales tax, it controls some gas tax, it controls everything from the airport to a hospital, land use and development. If you want to build something, you have to go through the county commission to get all the permits. Business licensing. So if you want to own a business, if you want to practice a profession, they handle professional licensing. So you have to go through all these steps just to be able to start a small business. They do transportation. They oversee public safety. So it really, water, which is obviously a huge issue right now, it really touches everything we do here in Clark County. So when you think about, obviously the Senate race is important. These congressional seats are so important. But when it comes to your pocketbook and what you can do with your life, this is really the race that probably matters the most.
Yeah, I am amazed at what I experienced tax-wise when it came to COVID. This sounds silly, but there was, they were handing out that money, PPP money or whatever. But then there was the rent. I had my office, and in order to come up with to get a rent, that PPP rent money, I had to have a certain business. They wanted the fees, so they literally created that money, and then I had to go out and spend a ridiculous amount of money on a particular business license that I did not need.
Right.
And they kept arguing and saying, "You're not getting this money without it." So it was like, you've got to be kidding me. I just couldn't believe it. I just felt like it was so scandalous for, businesses that were suffering so badly at the time. We had to go out and get extra licenses. And it was all about the fees.
Yeah, my wife had to deal with the exact same thing you're talking about. And to be a small business owner here, I think it's harder than to own a casino or own a larger business.
Oh my gosh, we were skin of our teeth.
Yeah, it's, for example, if you were to open up a taco stand or a hot dog cart, it would take 23 different steps and you'd have to pay 4 different fees. And so you have to hire, attorneys, and you have to hire accountants. And so if you're somebody just trying to make ends meet and hope to make a small business for yourself and your family, it's almost impossible in Clark County. And that's one of the reasons I'm running, to make it a little bit easier and make the county more business friendly so that people who want to be small business owners and entrepreneurs have that chance.
Well, and I have even heard that getting a liquor license in this town is more like getting an act of Congress through. It should not be that way. And I even look at what happened to my son getting into the cannabis industry just to be able to work at a dispensary. This kid, I cannot tell you, had I not funded all the licensures he needed, I could not believe the fingerprint fees and this license just to get into that industry, to have a job, to make $14 an hour.
Right.
It was so blown away by it. It's really we have gotten feed to death in this city.
One thing that's really troubling is with the cannabis industry and with liquor licensing. So the county controls the licensing for that. And one thing we've seen is that people who donate tend to get their licenses through faster or have a better chance of receiving a license. So
donate to what?
Donate to the political campaigns of the incumbent county commissioners. And that's another thing that really spurred me to run. My background is in government transparency and accountability, and I'm sure we'll get into that more. But when we're operating on this mob mentality, where these incumbent lawmakers here at the county level say, if you pay me, you'll have better service.
Oh, I can tell you some stories about our current governor.
Yeah,
like that.
absolutely. When he was on the county commission, he was the worst about it. Yeah. And now the guy I'm running against is probably the worst about this pay for play mentality. And it's disgusting. I mean, government should work the same for everybody, no matter how much you give to a candidate, how little you give to a candidate, how much you make, the color of your skin, your sex, whatever. Right. Government should treat you the same. And that's not how it works right now in Clark County.
Yeah, it's pretty scandalous. We have our own swamp. Let's just say that, right? So tell me about your background, Drew, because what's going to make you different? We already know what we have in there. We have some pretty swarmy cats in our local government, and I'm pushing really hard to get the just doing what I can in my scope. Having you on the podcast, and I've had some really great people on, and doing my part of what I can to help in my backyard, what I can do to help my friends in local business, like, at the speakeasy. I think that's, we met because you ended up at one of my speakeasy events, and I'm doing what I can in my reach. What is your background? And what caused you to get into this? Like, tell us a little bit more about you, so we know why it's important to vote for you versus somebody else.
Sure. So I grew up actually in East Tennessee in rural Appalachia. I grew up in a trailer with a single mom who worked, Walmart and as a maid to make ends meet for me and my sister. And I was actually zoned for a terrible rural school district. So rather than a terrible inner city school district where I'm from, you have the terrible rural districts. So we lied about my address. We used my grandmother's address, and my mom drove about an hour and a half round trip every day so that I could go to a better school. And so that sort of instilled in me an appreciation for education that I think most people don't have. She sort of created hillbilly school choice, I like to say. Wow. And from that, I really appreciated the sort of atmosphere I grew up in, because when you grow up in Appalachia, it's not about government handouts or what government can do for you. It's relying on your neighbors. When my mom would lose a job, our neighbors would bring over some food for us, and my grandmother, things like that. And so that sort of community self-reliance, it was church, and it was, really
supporting one another.
Exactly, neighbors and friends helping each other. And so that made me, I think, more limited government minded. And then when I went to college and took economics classes, I realized that I leaned more towards, free market, small government solutions. And that inspired me to get into public policy. I went to grad school at Pepperdine for public policy. I knew I wanted to devote my life to advancing liberty however I could. And so that for me meant going into think tanks. I worked at the National Taxpayers Union. I saved taxpayers about $60 billion in my career. So I'm very proud of that, obviously.
Wow.
But when I was 24, I left my job in DC, lived in my car to get a think tank going, which is the Tennessee version of the Nevada Policy Research Institute. So what a think tank does, I should back up because this is sort of esoteric language, I think. A think tank does analysis and modeling and things like that to see the best solutions for government. So our job is to give policymakers good ideas. And of course, as a conservative limited government guy, that usually means giving Republicans good ideas. And unfortunately, we don't have any Republicans on the county commission to give good ideas to. So my goal has always been to just be behind the scenes. I still work at think tanks today. About 8 years ago, my wife and I were living in DC again after we left the think tank in Tennessee, which is still going great, and created a lot of school choice opportunities, lower taxes for everybody in Tennessee. So really happy with what we accomplished there. Found somebody great to turn it over to, and I had opportunities in the media. And so I've been working at Newsmax and the Daily Caller and a few other think tanks as a government waste expert, an energy policy expert, and a government watchdog. So I do a lot of open records requests and things like that, and expose when government is being corrupt. And about eight years ago, we had a chance to move here, so my wife could start up a business that she was wanting to do, and that's how we ended up here. And
how lucky are we to have you in our own backyard?
I appreciate it.
Guys, we need to vote for Drew. Please listen to me. He's got the background. we literally have a tax and spend running rampant, like liberals running our state right now. We have got to get this under control. How can we continue to tax the people, everyday people here in town that are already suffering from inflation on and working already two jobs or whatever? It's over the top.
One of the most disgusting things that my opponent has done is about 3 years ago, there was a sales tax increase that he proposed, that he voted for. And so, of course, sales taxes are extremely regressive. They hurt the poorest among us the most. And it was ready to sunset. It was only supposed to last for 2 years. When it came time for that to come, that tax to come off, it was right in the middle of the COVID shutdowns, and when we were all struggling the most, inflation was starting to ramp back up. And he actually said, no, we need to keep this tax because we, the government, need your money worse than you need it. This is a guy who has 5 houses, Cindy, 5 houses. He's got a $120,000 Tesla, and he's wanting to tax the poorest among us even more. It's just disgusting.
Mm-hmm. So he's making his income from our state and then whatever else he's doing. Is that correct?
So his income is largely tied to his wife's relationship with Harry Reid. So she worked for Harry Reid for about 20 to 25 years as a policy advisor, worked on his campaign. And the jobs that he's gotten as an attorney have been as a result of the connections that he had with Harry Reid. And so he raises an incredible amount of money because he is basically the de facto head of the Harry Reid machine now that Harry Reid has passed away. He and Tick, one of the other county commissioners, led the charge in changing the name of the airport to Harry Reid International.
That was a perfectly good waste of money.
Exactly.
I mean, what are we doing? When that came out, I'm like, we don't have better things to spend our money on. I could not believe it. It just disgusts me, the lack of common sense that has been happening. Guys, again, please vote for Drew. Please, please, please. We've got to get this wasteful government spending. It's coming directly out of our pockets, guys.
There's hundreds of examples like that. The airport that you mentioned, they said that they would pay for that themselves. They said, Justin Jones and Tick and these people said that we're going to raise the money privately so taxpayers don't have to pay for it. But it turns out that they only raised half the amount that they needed. So we're going to pay $4 million out of pocket to change what should be the Las Vegas International Airport to the Harry Reid International Airport.
It's egregious when we do things, and that was never put up for a vote.
No.
Why did we not get to vote on something like that? At a time that it was the worst timing that we could ever do, we changed the name of an airport for what? Time and time again, we have proven that when you just give somebody something and they don't have to earn it, they do not appreciate it. My oldest daughter is married, and her husband were planning on giving my youngest daughter their car. They're buying a new one. And I said, no, you're going to make her pay for that car, even if it's a small amount, right? Because nobody appreciates something that they don't have to work for. And, when I bought my son his first car, we made sure that he paid for at least half of it. Same thing with my daughter. You're going to pay a portion of this car, and it's so much better. They take care of it and all those kind of things. Why would we just give somebody a house that has no idea how to even pay for a car? Right, exactly. Okay, so these are the things that all have to go in and play when you're using somebody else's money.
That's the exact problem. Milton Friedman once said that, if you're buying something for yourself, you spend money so carefully. But if somebody else is buying something for you with money that's not theirs, you're going to get crap. You're going to get something you don't want. And that's what happens with government every day. And this government that we have in Clark County could be cut by a third, and we wouldn't notice any reduction in services, in what the county is like. We'd probably be better off because we'd have more money going through the private marketplace, and things would be better because there would be more businesses thriving, right, and more money in our pockets to spend how we want.
That's right. And, again, I'm about private, citizens, private business owners. Speakeasy networking is all of that about, keeping small business afloat no matter what, and thriving, not just surviving. So want to wrap up today and just remind you guys, we've got a very important election coming up in November. Clark County Commission seats are very, very important. And Drew Johonson is our ticket to win this thing. So please vote for Drew, guys. Drew Johonson, County Commission, seat F. And if this conversation interests you, please get a hold of us at cindybirkland.com. And we'll walk you through this next voter. Who's up for the best seats that are going to most take care of us here locally in Nevada.
Cindy Birkland here. Just wanted to say thank you for watching the channel. And if you want more content, just need you to click right here. And don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel, clicking right here. If any of these conversations have interested you, please get a hold of us at cindybirkland.com, or you can reach me at cindybirkland@gmail.com. Thanks again for watching.